Hello and good evening, Chicago. Welcome back in for another episode of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick back with you. We are going to dive heavy into the world of basketball all around the city. The Bulls are in action tonight. They are back from Paris, taking on the Atlanta Hawks. We'll talk about that matchup a little bit. We will also look back at the time the boys had in Paris last week. They had some fun away from the court, and on the court, they had a lot of fun taking down the Detroit Pistons. We will look at that. We'll also check in on the college scene all around Chicago, all the area schools, Loyola, DePaul, Northwestern, Chicago State, my alma mater, Concordia out in River Forest. We'll check in on all those, see what they're up to, see how they're doing as the calendar is getting closer and closer to March, and we all know how important that is in the college basketball scene. We are also in the midst of the, for lack of a better term, the legal tampering period in the WNBA, where free agents are able to communicate back and forth with teams. They're not allowed to sign with anybody yet, but we all know how that works. So we will check in on the Sky, see what they might be up to. A lot of their players are free agents right now, so we'll check in on that. And yes, of course, we have to talk some Bears before we get out of here. All that and more coming up. So buckle on up, everybody. Let's have some fun in Chi-Town. Let's go. And hello and good evening, everyone. Once again, I am your host, Adam Karnick. Thank you so much for hopping in and joining us tonight. Lots to go over as we get ready for episode 121 of Chi-Town Weekly. My goodness, how in the world do we keep putting out these episodes? You guys keep coming back and listening to them, so I am happy to talk with you. Going to be very, very, very basketball heavy on the show tonight. Lots to get to, lots to go through. We're going to be talking all types, shapes, and sizes here of basketball tonight. NBA, WNBA, NCAA, got it all lined up for you. And yeah, we'll sneak in some NFL talk before the end of the show at some point too. We will be sure to bring that in as well. But before we get too far into it, of course, we do need to acknowledge get our homework out of the way, if you will, here at IE Sports Radio. Of course, we are available for you on all of the major social platforms. Just search IE Sports Radio. That'll get you Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and also our website, iesportsradio.com. Head on over there, because for the last 8.5 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans. And with your help, we're ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first starts at just $5 a month. This donation gets you a shout-out on every one of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university. We just had the podcasting university had a session this past weekend, another one lined up this weekend. So you can sit down and take part in that. If you've got any questions or have an itch to scratch about podcasting, we can help you out there. And even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And I do want to acknowledge our Patreon supporters at this point: Bay Area Raised, MLOS Great, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous. So we went through the ways that you can follow along with the station on social media at IE Sports Radio, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all those things. This show is also available for you on Twitter at IESRC. You can follow along with us there. Or if you want to follow along with me personally, I am at Adam_Karnick. All right. And if you are listening live here tonight on Spreaker.com and the Spreaker app here on this Monday night, hop on into the chat room. Taryn Rodriguez is already there. Good evening, Taryn, giving us the update on Loyola Chicago men's volleyball. They had themselves a good weekend, sweeping NJIT and beating LIU, Long Island University, in 4 sets. And they're home this week against Maryville and St. Francis, Brooklyn. Taryn, of course, is the host of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio. He normally would be going on after us. His schedule was such that he actually went on before us today. So Taryn passed the baton over to me tonight. So thank you, Taryn, for that update. Unfortunately, I was not able to listen in. I was still at work. So be sure to check him out on the replay on the podcast. Or if you are listening to this show as a podcast later on in the week, whether it's on Spreaker or Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, however you digest this show, thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. I'm happy to be here in whatever way works best for you. So let's start things off with the Bulls, shall we? They are just about ready over at United Center to tip off with the Atlanta Hawks. I do believe they are, if they're not underway yet, they're about to get there. Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks, the Bulls back in Chicago tonight, favored ever so slightly in this one. 1.5 points is all the Bulls are favored in this one. Over under sitting at 238.5. Bulls are on a little bit of a streak right now. They've won their last couple. Of course, the big one against Golden State last week. We talked about that. Was last week Sunday. We talked about that on our show last week. And then the fun one, going overseas and playing the game last Thursday in Paris against the Pistons, and about as comfortable of a win as you could have had. That was one thing with that game. You were wondering how both teams, frankly, were going to do with that. Of course, it was as much a vacation as it was a business, mixing business with pleasure. What a great place to do that, Paris. It was as much a vacation as it was a business trip for them. And fortunately, the Bulls were able to do both. Great pictures of DeMar and Zach checking out the Eiffel Tower. Derek Jones Jr. went and proposed to his girlfriend while they were over there in Paris. She said yes. So Derek Jones Jr. is now an engaged man. He is no longer an eligible bachelor. Congratulations to Derek on that. You can question the wisdom of proposing live on Instagram, proposing live with an audience around him when he did it, but everybody's different. And it seemed to work for the two of them. So congratulations. But at the end of the day too, the Bulls were able to take care of business. Little bit of trouble in the second quarter. Fell behind at times in the second quarter a little bit, but by and large, by halftime, the Bulls had a lead that they were never going to relinquish the rest of the way. It was, for the most part, a straightforward victory for the Bulls in Paris. And that's good, if for no other reason. The Bulls this season, they just insist on playing down to their competition, and the Pistons are not competitive, to put it nicely. They're a team that's building for the future. A lot of young guys, a lot of young pieces on that Pistons team, and it's a team that the Bulls should have been able to handle fairly easily, fairly straightforward, and they did. They did. They took the lead late in the second quarter and never gave it back. Got up 53-41. It was tied at 51 with a little over 4 minutes left to go. The Bulls then took the lead and ran with it after that. So led from 3 minutes and 10 seconds on in the second quarter throughout the rest of the game. 55-54 was as close as it got after that. And the Bulls took off from there. Zach with 30 points in that game. DeMar came back, made his triumphant return, 26 points, 50% from the floor, 9 of 18. 9 of 17 from inside the three-point line. Vooch with yet another double-double, 16 points, 15 rebounds for Vucevic after his huge game against Golden State. Now they're back in the States. Now you had the fun. You had the great trip. You had that great trip overseas. Everybody had a good time. Everybody had fun with it, enjoyed the experience. But also now you got the win. You got the important part of it. Now you got to get back. You've got a game tonight, another game tomorrow night in Indy, taking on the Pacers, and then another game on Thursday night down in Charlotte, followed by yet one more game just a couple of nights after that on Saturday night down in Orlando against the Magic. 4 games this week. This is a busy week for the Bulls. Now, each game individually, this is the tough one tonight against the Hawks, and you're the most rested in it. You know, because you're coming back from Paris. I have no idea. Hopefully they've been able to figure out their sleep schedules. I'm sure for some of them they have no idea what time it is. I remember when I came back. Now, when I went overseas many years ago, it was China. That was a little different, but it took me the better part of a week, probably longer, to really get my clock reset to being back in the United States and no longer being in China. It took a while. Now that was 12, 13-hour time difference. This is only an 8-hour time difference for these guys, but still, it takes time. Now, obviously, they've got experts helping them with things like that. I did not, but hopefully they've had a chance to kind of reset their body clocks a little bit. But then they're in the thick of it. Again, each game taken in and of itself, they're winnable. You know, you've got the Hawks are the only team above 500 for them this week. Pacers, they're just below 500, 23 and 25. Hornets, they've only got 13 wins. The Magic, they've only got 17 wins. So you've got an opportunity here with this week to stack a few wins, really go on a streak here, extend this out to 3, 4, 5, a 6-game winning streak even by the time this week is done. What you don't want is to get to the end of this and you're on a 4-game losing skid. That's really what you got to be careful of, be cautious of, really pay attention to with the Bulls on this stretch. This is a big stretch as we take a look. Take a look at the standings overall. The Bulls, they're right there teetering on the brink. They're the 10 seed. They'd be part of that play-in, but Atlanta's right in front of them at the 8. Just a couple of games in front of them, so they can make up a game with a win tonight over Atlanta. Then Indy's directly in front of them, just a half game in front. A win tonight, and the Bulls theoretically can pass Indy with a win tonight, as the Pacers are off. They're not playing tonight. So a win, the Bulls could effectively tie them in the standings, make up that half game on them, and then make up another game on them with a win tomorrow night. Charlotte and Orlando are both behind them in the standings, obviously, but opportunities to make up ground and climb the ladder a little bit, try to sneak out of this play-in if you can somehow get up to 6. I think getting any past 6 is daunting probably for the entire season at this point, but try to make some headway and make your way up to, try to get up to 6. You're 3.5 games back of Miami at this point. Even if all you do is make up a game or two on Miami this week, you can pass Indy, potentially even pass Atlanta in the standings and put a little bit of room there, climb up those numbers a little bit, get up to 9 or 8 by the end of this week. Heck, maybe even to 7 if the Knicks fall off enough. But what you can't have is to split these or heaven's sake lose all these games if you're the Bulls. I don't know if I've talked about this a whole lot. I probably haven't because I don't talk a ton of Bulls here on the show. I really appreciate Billy Donovan as a head coach of the Bulls. He is so good to listen to. He is about as straight of a shooter as you'll hear from a coach. He takes the time to explain exactly what he's talking about. And yes, he's not necessarily going to give away strategy. He's not going to give away the house. He's not going to give away the farm on anything. He's going to hold some things back, but he doesn't speak in platitudes. He doesn't speak in the coach cliches that you hear. He gives you honest to goodness analysis. Perfect example, listening to a little bit of a press conference he gave before the game tonight, and he was asked about Patrick Williams. Patrick Williams has been moved out of the starting lineup now for the Bulls. And he was asked, is that any kind of an indictment on Patrick? And he said, well, no. We saw an opportunity where we felt that Patrick would be able to contribute more by being on the second unit. We're still working him into the rotation. We're still using him. But by taking him away from DeMar and Zach, it's allowing him a little more freedom to step up a little bit and contribute in a bigger way. And it's just, the more time you listen to Billy Donovan, I really appreciate him and like that he's here. And I'm glad he's going to be here for a while. I think the Bulls have themselves a solid head coach. You could certainly do worse, and they have done worse. Oh my God, Jim Boylan. They've certainly done worse. Could they do better? Yeah, probably. But Billy Donovan is a solid one that they have there over at United Center. So I appreciate what they have there in Billy Donovan. He's a good coach, and I really appreciate how straight of a shooter he is as far as telling us things and as far as explaining things to us and to the audience and to the players, to everybody else too. So right now we've got under 7 minutes to go in the first quarter. The Bulls are currently up 10-8 over Atlanta. We will keep you updated on everything there as the game progresses. For the Bulls, it's a little bit of a mix of everybody. DeMar's got 4 points to lead the way, but DeMar's got 4. Patrick Williams has 2. Vooch has 2. Levine has 2. So a lot of balanced scoring early on with the Bulls. All right, we are going to take a quick break, and then on the other side, we're going to stay with hoops, but we are going to drift more into the college realm. We want to get caught up on everything going on with the Chicago area college basketball teams. You are listening to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
Motorsports takes many forms, and there's one show on IE Sports Radio that's ready to cover it all.
I sure hope you're talking about you and I, Daryl, because I know the Extra Mile is the best place to go for everything motorsports related.
Yes, it is. From NASCAR to IndyCar to sports cars to everything in between, IE Sports Radio has everything covered for the fastest sport in the world.
Plus, don't forget all of our random shenanigans along the way.
That's right, Caitlin. So for plenty of motorsports coverage and plenty of Caitlinisms, check out the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio with Daryl Kinsey Jr. and Caitlin Seen, Thursdays at 8 p.m.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS. the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly, everybody, here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Glad to be back with you here. Adam Karnick here with you. So we talked a lot of Bulls there in the first segment. Now we're going to be still talking hoops, but we're going to dip down into the college realm, taking a look at some of the local teams. We're going to start off Northwestern taking on Wisconsin tonight. It is the only game in the Big Ten. It is a good one going on right now at Paul Ryan up in Evanston. Paul Ryan and Welsh Ryan. Excuse me, I kept saying it wrong. Welsh Ryan Arena there in Evanston. Northwestern up 64-62 on Wisconsin. Just 46 seconds left to go in that one. Wisconsin took a timeout after a defensive rebound. We'll keep you updated on that one. Overall, in the Big Ten, the entire Big Ten is kind of down a little bit this year. Purdue, of course, the number one team in the nation. Those of you that listen in on the weekends on IE Sports Radio, you know that Aaron X, talking all things Indiana on the Crossroads podcast, has been talking a lot of Purdue basketball lately. They're the number one team in the nation. Northwestern has been dealing with some COVID protocols. They've missed several games here the last couple of weeks, so their first game back in action tonight against Wisconsin. They are up, but it is a close one. Northwestern overall 12-5 on the year, just 3-3 in the Big Ten, right about the middle of the pack. Seventh in the Big Ten right now, seventh out of the 14 teams in the Big Ten, so right smack in the middle. Illinois, not far behind them. They're part of a log jam at 4-4 in the conference. Iowa, Indiana, also part of that log jam. Penn State is 4-4 inside the conference as well. So Illinois 13-6 overall. The entire conference, best way to describe it is good, not great. This year. Just one ranked team in the entire conference. It is Purdue. They're the number one team, but that's it. Nobody else ranked inside the top 25 at all. But on the flip side, everybody is at least at five. You've got all but two teams are above 500, and Nebraska is right at 500 overall at 10-10. Only one team in the entire conference is sub 500. The 7-11 Minnesota Gophers, just 1-7 inside the Big Ten for the Gophers. So while it would feel like, okay, Northwestern and Illinois, they're out of the running, you might think, for the conference overall, heading into the Big Ten tournament, Purdue's almost certainly a shoe-in for that double, for one of the double bye spots, and would be the heavy favorites to win the conference this season. At the same time, it's not like the rest of the conference is running away from either the Wildcats or the Illini. There's certainly room to improve there, and they can get themselves in there and possibly grab an at-large bid. It's certainly, it's not unfeasible. And the game has just gone final. Northwestern wins. They beat Wisconsin 66-62. So Northwestern with a big win tonight over Wisconsin. That gets the Wildcats over 500 in the conference. That will get them to 13-5 overall, and then 4-3 inside the conference. That right there, that just bumps them up to tied with Wisconsin. Tied with Wisconsin as far as record goes. Actually, Wisconsin falls to 4-4 then. So Northwestern, a nice win there. Yeah, they're behind in wins behind Michigan State inside the conference, but they have fewer losses. They're only a half game back of Michigan and Rutgers, who are tied for second. So there's certainly room there for Northwestern. A nice win for the Wildcats tonight in that one. We'll take a look around at some of the other teams. DePaul in the Big East. Now the Big East doesn't have anybody going tonight. Their next games, the conference doesn't play again. Until tomorrow night. DePaul is in Georgetown. DePaul overall just 9-11 on the year, down near the bottom of the Big East. That's unfortunately kind of where they live. 3-6 overall in conference, but we did see a nice win for DePaul here earlier this month. Beating number 8 Xavier here recently. That was a nice surprise shocker for the Blue Demons. So a little bit of progress being made there with the program a little bit. Georgetown is having a very down year. Georgetown is just 5-15 overall on the season, and they have yet to win a Big East game this season. So certainly opportunity there for the Blue Demons to pick up another conference win. Wouldn't expect any kind of a tournament run from DePaul, but hopefully they can get themselves at least above 500 here with a little bit of a run. So they've got Georgetown tomorrow night. That's the only game in the Big East tomorrow. And then they will be off. DePaul will be off again until the weekend when they host Marquette. Another big one there, number 16 Marquette going on. Some other ones to look at, of course. Formerly of the Missouri Valley, they are no longer part of it anymore. Where did my Loyola go? I apologize. There we are, Atlantic 10. Loyola, moved conferences last season, and it's been a rough start for Loyola Chicago. The Ramblers just 7-12 on the season overall, and just 1-6 inside the Atlantic 10. So a rough first season for the Ramblers. They did beat St. Bonaventure in their last game, 67-55. So that was for Loyola their first Atlantic 10 win, and not a cheap first win by any means. I mean, St. Bonaventure is in the upper half of the Atlantic 10, fifth in the conference right now, 4-3 overall. But Loyola's having a rough go of it here this first season in the Atlantic 10. It's still probably a good move overall to have gotten out of the Missouri Valley. Certainly more money, more exposure coming in for the team, for the program, for the school. The Atlantic 10 a little more able to get an at-large bid. The Missouri Valley was almost never going to get an at-large bid in the NCAA tournament. The Atlantic 10, on the other hand, that could happen from time to time. So some things going on there for the Ramblers. Let's see some other ones that I wanted to check on. Chicago State real quickly, because I know they were in action tonight as well. And I apologize as my scores ran away from me. I do apologize for that, so I'm pulling that back up. There we go. Chicago State is playing Coastal Carolina. They are losing right now, 64-61, with just over 5 minutes left to go in that one. Chicago State having a rough go of it overall, just 4-16 on the season for Chicago State. So not a great season by any means, and trying to hang with Coastal Carolina. We'll see how that one plays out tonight. But the big ones, of course, Northwestern, Illinois. They're very much still alive in the Big Ten, thanks in large part to the Big Ten kind of just being down as a conference on the whole. And then Loyola, they've appeared they have really come on strong the last few years, struggling in their first season in the Atlantic 10. And good evening as Larry B. and Mike Pat hop into the chat room. Good evening, gentlemen. A lot of basketball tonight on the show. Lots and lots of basketball talk going on tonight. All right, so we talked about the collegiate men. Let's check in on the collegiate women real quick, shall we? We will head over, starting again in the Big Ten. In the Big Ten, the women's, the Big Ten is a heck of a lot stronger of a conference. Let me tell you what, Illinois ranked 22nd in the nation, 16-4 overall, 6-3 inside the Big Ten. But that's only good enough for middle of the pack of the Big Ten. Ohio State, second ranked in the entire nation, undefeated overall, and of course then in the conference, you've got them at 19-0 and 8-0 in the conference. Indiana and Iowa are both 7-1. Maryland is 7-2. Michigan is 6-2 in the conference. So Illinois at 6-3. They got 5 teams in front of them. It's a strong conference this year. Northwestern, yep, Northwestern women are not having a good year. 6-13 overall. They have yet to win a conference game. 0-9 in the Big Ten. But unfortunately, that's kind of par for the course for the Northwestern women. They don't tend to do terribly well in basketball, unfortunately. Northwestern is going to be playing on Wednesday. They'll actually be taking on Chicago State. They'll be taking on Chicago State on Wednesday. Illinois, meanwhile, will be taking on Purdue on Thursday. That should be a good one. Good conference rivalry there. Illinois and Purdue on Thursday. Trying to keep pace there is Illinois with everybody else in the top of the Big Ten. Outside of the Big Ten, the other always significant one for Chicago, of course, is DePaul. And DePaul, they actually are playing tonight. It is not going well. Taking on UConn. UConn is all over them. 78-43 with 7.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter there. UConn is just putting it to DePaul. The DePaul women overall on the season in the bottom third of the Big East. 11-9 overall, above 500, but just 4-5 in conference. So a little bit of a down year for the Lady Blue Demons this season. Hopefully they can get things turned around a little bit here in the back half. They've had some tough losses. Lost at home to Marquette, lost at home to Villanova. Did beat Xavier, but then a loss to Georgetown and also to St. John. Just some tough games in there. They do have Seton Hall yet this month, and some other opportunities to try and play catch up. They've got one more against UConn that they've got to do, as well as they will see Villanova again. But that's actually it for their rank, at least right now, their ranked opponents. We'll see how the rankings play out the rest of the way. But on the women's side, it is University of Illinois are the ladies to keep an eye on and keep in touch with as we get through the college season and start getting closer and closer to tournament time. All right, I wanted to do a little bit more basketball before we'll take a quick break, and then we'll close out outside of basketball. But I did want to get into a little bit here with the WNBA. We talk about this in the NFL a little bit. I'm not sure if it's the exact nomenclature as what they use in the WNBA, but the thinking is the same. We are in the legal tampering period for the WNBA, where players are allowed to talk to teams, but they're not allowed to sign with any teams yet. They can't actually officially sign contracts until February 1st. Until next week, Wednesday. That's when they're actually allowed to start signing deals. But these women are making moves, just like in the NFL, where deals get announced and things like that. We're having things happen. Jonquel Jones is going to be back is going to the Liberty. We've had some trades happen. Brianna Stewart we're on free agent watch for Brianna Stewart. With Chicago, what you're looking at is, what is Candace Parker going to do? What is Candace Parker going to do? She is a free agent. She has made her intentions known that she either is going to play for Chicago or go back to Los Angeles. Those are the only two that she's really considering at this point. But you've also got Courtney Vandersloot is a free agent. Is she going to come back to Chicago? There's been talk that she and Brianna Stewart might become a tandem, and Brianna Stewart does not want to come to Chicago. So Courtney's going to have to make a choice. Does she go play with some of her friends, or does she stay in Chicago? What Courtney Vandersloot does, that could very easily affect what Allie Quigley does. Will Allie Quigley want to continue playing with Courtney, or will she want to strike out on her own? So lots of things to be keeping an eye on there. The Sky have been really good. We've talked about them quite a bit the last couple of years because they've won a championship and they've been one of the more dominant teams in the WNBA last year. That could very quickly be coming to a close. With a lot of these ladies going to potentially other teams, that's really going to change what's going on in Chicago. Now, okay, yeah, Kalia Copper's still here. We're still going to have Copper. But I mean, I didn't even mention Emma Meesman and Azra Stevens. There's a lot of cogs and pieces from this team that's been so good the last couple of years that just might simply not be here. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens and watch what happens with the Sky here over the next week or so. See where some of these gals wind up. See where some of these women sign and who they go play with. See if the Sky are able to bring any of them back. See if they can't, who do they bring in to try and replace them? It's going to be very interesting to watch, and we'll keep an eye on it. We'll do a little bit more of a breakdown on it after we pass February 1st. So in a couple of weeks time, we'll be breaking that down. That'll be right in between, right before the Super Bowl, basically. That week we'll be talking about that, and then we'll get some more into that. The Sky did have it announced they're going to go to Canada and play a preseason game against Minnesota up in Canada, which is very cool. So there are things happening with the team that we're keeping an eye on. Certainly some interesting stuff. It's going to be a very interesting, just like with other teams, it's an interesting off season for the Sky. Certainly lots of big decisions coming up. Obviously, it's also a huge offseason for the Bears. And lots of good things happening up in Lake Forest. You've been patient. We will talk some Bears before we get out of here. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Were you listening to a great game on USRN, but then the Wi-Fi crashed in the final seconds? Or do you simply want to listen to the best calls we here at USRN have to offer? Well then, you need to go check out our Audio Boom page. It holds a collection of our best calls that you don't want to miss. How do I get there, you ask? You can download the Audio Boom app and look up Ultimate Sports Radio, or simply go to audiobook.com/Ultimate Sports Radio. And as always, thanks for listening and making USRN one of the most talked about sports networks on Mixler.com.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cal Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, This is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Harrison Glazer, and we're coming at you from the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. I cover the Jets, the Islanders, the Nets, and the Yankees.
This is Pierre Moss, and I cover the Mets, Knicks, Rangers, and the Giants.
Our show is live every Wednesday through Spreaker and a bunch of other ways to get our content. Again, we're the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. We talk about all those New York sports. It's a lot of fun. We get into all of it. Please tune in. Again, that's Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
And we look forward to having you guys right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Some say that Indiana is just a flyover state. Flatlands and cornfields, barns and country roads. What if I told you Indiana is the crossroads of America? What if I told you in all other states, basketball is just basketball? In Indiana, basketball is life. Crowded high school basketball gyms on a Friday night, and every barn with a basketball rim and a frayed, worn-out net. If you're interested in the heartbeat of America, and if you're interested in sports, if you have Hoosier running through your veins, the Crossroads Pod with Aaron X is made for you. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Each and every week, the Crossroad Pod covers all of Indiana sports. The pride of the horseshoe of the Indianapolis Colts. The blue-collar, bold swagger of the Indiana Pacers. The relentless pursuit of the sixth banner for the Indiana Hoosiers. The swing of the hammer of the Purdue Boilermakers. The swoop of the Cardinals of Ball State. The summoning of the echoes of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The growl of the Bulldogs of Butler. The intensity of an Indiana fever. The chop of the Indianapolis Indians. At the Crossroads Pod, if it is Indiana, we've got you covered. More than cornfields. More than country back roads. The Crossroads of America. Join me, Aaron X, every week. It's nothing but net.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. One last segment before we get out of here tonight. We got a little bit of extra time because, again, Taryn Rodriguez actually went earlier in the day with set points, so we are it for IE Sports Radio tonight. So we've got a little bit of extra time. We don't have to be out of here right at the top of the hour tonight. So we got a little bit of extra time, then talk a little bit of Bears before we get out of here. Yeah, we can't go a week without talking some Bears football, can we? Kevin Warren was officially announced as the new president and CEO of the team. Officially last week, Tuesday, he had his introductory press conference, spent a lot of time with the media. We talked about it last week, and the press conference just reinforced the Bears are becoming a big boy operation, a professional operation. They have finally, George McCaskey has finally started to realize that indirectly, unintentionally, he and the family have been part of the problem for the last 30 years. As Taryn quickly chimes into the chat, he'll be back at his normal time next week, so don't get used to being the last show of the day. That's fine, Taryn. That's fine. That's fine. We'll just, we'll fill a little bit of extra time this week, and we'll cut it at our normal time next week. But the McCaskies have been, unfortunately, indirectly, not intentionally, they've been part of the problem the last 30 years with always looking to a fault, looking to promote from within, to bring in somebody for important jobs that ultimately have never done those jobs before in key spots. With the only exception to that rule that I can come up with is when they hired John Fox to be the head coach, when in reality all that was for Fox was a golden parachute to just allow for a safer, softer landing for his eventual retirement from the NFL entirely. But other than that, I mean, Ryan Pace had never been a GM before. Mark Trestman had never been an NFL head coach before. The GM before Ryan Pace, whose name I have forgotten because he was so awful, that hired Trestman and insisted on he had to be the smartest, sneakiest guy in the room. He had never been a GM before. Jerry Angelo had never been a GM before. Lovie Smith had never been a head coach before. Ted Phillips had never been a president before. I was explaining this to Zach, my co-host on the Neutral Zone, on Tuesday nights. He and I were talking about it a little bit because he's also the host of Lions, Tigers, and Wings, Oh My, on Thursdays, talking about Detroit sports. And so we were talking about Kevin Warren because he, of course, comes over from being the commissioner of the Big Ten. And so we were talking about the hire news. This is a big boy move. This is the first time the Bears have actually hired somebody that's ostensibly done this before. He's done this with the Vikings. Been a team president before. He's run the Big Ten, and he's done it successfully. So this is it's a big boy hire. It was fascinating listening to Warren talk about how he's gotten to this point. Now, all that said and told, it's a great hire by the Bears, great move, and I talked about this last week too. I don't expect this to have any effect on the team at all. I don't expect this to have any effect on the team at all. He is going to be focused solely on getting the Arlington Heights deal done and then planning, designing, building the stadium and all the other amenities around it in Arlington Park that they're planning on doing. That is going to be his focus. Yeah, if Ryan Poles has a question or, hey man, I want some help from you on this, great. But it's going to be up to Ryan Poles to build the team. There's some interesting news this past week, though. Poles is still going to have his top lieutenant. Ian Cunningham is the Bears' first assistant general manager in team history. And when Poles insisted that he be brought in last year, that he needed an assistant and he needed it to be Ian, the feeling was, he's only going to be here a year and then he's going to have his own franchise, that somebody's going to snatch him up and it's going to be well-deserved and well-earned. He's going to be back. Cunningham interviewed for 2 jobs, 2 general manager openings, one in Tennessee and one in Arizona. Now, Tennessee, okay, they chose to go a different route. Arizona was fascinating. Arizona offered him the job. Cunningham turned it down. He decided he'd rather come back to Chicago rather than be the general manager of the Cardinals. And he was cited as saying he didn't see himself as the right fit in Arizona. And don't get me wrong, I'm excited for the Bears that Cunningham is back. But I'm very curious for Cunningham. I mean, as fans, sure, it's easy as fans to say, oh, that's a terrible job in Arizona. Why in the world would you want to go run that franchise right now? That's a mess. Kyler Murray's a wreck. You don't have a head coach. They've got holes everywhere. They've got a bunch of money tied up in a quarterback that you can't do anything with. J.J. Watt's retiring. DeAndre Hopkins wants out. Why would you want any part of that? And it's easy enough for us to say as fans, there aren't a whole lot of general manager spots that come open every year. It's not like head coaching gigs where 6, 7, 8, 9 of these things show up every cycle. You know, we're still not done with this. I still wouldn't be surprised if Mike McCarthy gets the axe in Dallas for that last play last night alone. What in the hell was that? You're going to have Ezekiel Elliott play center? Good luck with that, sir. That went about as well as anybody could have expected. Just what the... Gah. Anyway, it's not like there's not nearly as much of the turnover with general managers as there are with head coaches in the NFL. And so I find it interesting that Cunningham seems to be being particular with where he wants to go. And I do want to give him credit. Hey, if you recognize that this isn't the right spot for me, then don't take it. You know, if you're getting red flags going off that, hey, something's not right here. You know, it's as much as he was interviewing the Cardinals as much as the Cardinals were interviewing him. You know, and if he's getting red flags that, oh man, this I don't like this. Something's not right here. Hey, I understand it. But at the same time, if you're holding out for, if you're holding out for the Buffalo job, or if you're holding out for the Philly job, or you're holding out for the Kansas City job, that's not going to open up anytime soon. You're not going to get. You're not going to get just launched into an already great program. So you can't wait for that. So it's going to be interesting. At the same time, I can understand why he wants to be back. He's working with his best friend Ryan Poles. The Bears have a franchise quarterback. They have the first overall pick, and they have a ton of money at their disposal this offseason. This is going to be a fun offseason to keep an eye on for the Bears. One quick takeaway from all this, from this past weekend's NFL games as applicable to the Bears as we take a look here. First of all, I'm shocked that the Bears beat a team that made it to the NFC title game. They beat the San Francisco 49ers. You're welcome, Cash and Chris. As some friends of mine pointed out, Cash and Chris, hosts of our Philly sports show, on tomorrow evening, you'll get to hear them, Philly Sports Talk. You're welcome, guys, that you're playing that game at the Link. Had the Bears not beaten the 49ers in week 1, that game would be taking place in San Francisco, out in Santa Clara. Instead, it's in Philadelphia. I am floored that the Bears beat a team that made it all the way to the NFC title game this year. I don't know that they're going to make it to the Super Bowl with a 7th round Mr. Irrelevant quarterback, but it's going to be fascinating to watch on Sunday. My one takeaway, Bears related, from this past weekend, the Bears have got to make their priority the lines, offense and defensive lines. Look at what Cincinnati did to Buffalo up front. Just dominated and imposed their will. Look at what San Francisco did to Dallas. Imposed their will up front with the ground game and with the pass rush. That's where I hope Poles and Cunningham put a lot of their time and a lot of their efforts this offseason. And I think they will. Poles has often spoken, being an ex-offensive lineman, he understands how important the trenches are in football in the NFL. So I would not be surprised at all if that's where the Bears focus their efforts this offseason. Does that mean Skoronski from Northwestern might be in the plans for the first overall pick? Maybe. Does that mean Jalen Carter or Will Anderson? Maybe. I think it all depends on who comes calling for that first overall pick. It's up for sale, guys. Who wants to spend it? That's going to do it for this week. Thank you very much to everybody that hopped into the chat room, Taryn, Larry, and Mike, for hanging out with us in there. Thank you, Larry, for all the hard work you do behind the scenes here at the station. Thank you again to our Patreon supporters, Emlos Great, Bay Area Raised, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous for your continued support. Until next week, I am Adam Karnick. Thank you very, very much for coming and listening to the show. I really appreciate it. Stay safe. Enjoy the conference games this weekend. We'll see everybody next week.